I felt and saw this presence of something like a ghost.
As I was reaching for my keys, something growled at me coming out of the basement.
It was bad energy. I was sort of feeling like I was letting Satan out of hell.
I saw out of the corner of my eye what I thought was the girl falling off the roof.
I couldn't think. It was so loud and I was so terrified that I just froze.
I'm not calling for that. I'm calling because I'm freaking out here.
I felt this presence trying to push itself down on top of me very violently.
It would not go away. It's freaking me out. I look at my arm and it's got a scratch on it.
Welcome, everybody, to Ghost of Greystone, Beverly Hills. My name is Clete.
I'm Chris.
And we are those Keith brothers. And I'm kind of excited today.
I'm very excited.
He's very excited. I'm kind of excited because there's a problem with one of the segments that has to do with me. So we didn't look at those comments, did we? How many people did not want... I think I saw a bunch of them that said, don't do it.
No.
There was no reason to do it to embarrass me.
No comments.
You don't... No?
No.
What do you mean?
Nope.
You didn't see any comments?
Let's go.
All right. Oh, listen. Tonight, we're going to have screams, knocks, and paranormal apparel.
Huh?
Yes.
Paranormal apparel.
Perfectly said.
I love how you word that.
Okay. Paranormal apparel. Yeah,
okay.
Which is really wild, too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I know the story, but I didn't know you were going to label it like that. Couple things. We did get some comments from listeners, and we love it. And one of the questions was, like, what is this? Like, for people that have never tuned in or are watching the show, what is this about? And it really is a collection of... It's a collection of stories. Clete has being at the mansion for 22 years, he collected these stories and started on a mission when he wanted to document all of the stories. And it's really about the mansion and the paranormal activity, that's been going on for well more than 22 years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the questions was, well, tell us about why it's haunted and why well, in the past episodes, it's basically, it could be the murder-suicide. It could be the little girl falling out.
It could be the land on which it was built.
I have that here. Yeah, it's.
I mean, we don't know.
Sacred ground. Who knows?
And it could be. Well, yeah. I think one of the main things is the portal that's there, which allows spirits to come and go. But the question is, why is the portal there?
Yeah.
Did that open up on the night of the murders?
These are questions that will never be answered,
Yeah.
but we just want you to know that we're aware of this, but it's really about the stories from the book that Clete collected and sharing with you. And that's kind of how we're approaching it.
Yeah, I'm not here to be the guy who's going to give you all the answers because there really
aren't?
No, I'm trying not to be.
Oh.
Because you get upset.
I do.
But these stories, you're not going to have the answers.
No.
You won't have the answers because there are things that have happened like, well, we're going to get into Silent said one tonight.
No.
Wild.
You don't have to get into it.
All right.
We're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly is sound of the week. That sound, again, we've spoken about this on previous episodes. That sound, Clete left his recorder in there hundreds of times over 22 years just to get sounds. And those sounds are from those recordings.
Yeah.
And we find them fascinating. You can do what you want with it in terms of your own brain, but I know Clete and I know where these recordings came from. They weren't something that somebody gave him or anything. These are recordings on a digital recorder from Clete over those 22 years. And I love the stuff and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and honestly, this is the format that we came up with to use for our show. And this is what we're going to stick with for the next 10 shows.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
fun.
That'll be that.
It's fun. So keep commenting and do all that stuff. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's start with the paranormal apparel or pants story. This one is a bizarro.
Okay, this
bizarro world.
The first two really are out there, but This one surprised me, really surprised me, because there was a friend of mine who worked for the city named Charlie Ackerman. Hello, Charlie. And great guy. And I think I just approached him one day and said, hey, I'm writing a book. Did you ever have anything happen to you? It's one of those things, because I don't think Charlie, seeked me out to say, hey, I had a story. I don't think that's the way it went. Most of these people, I just approached and said, I'm just writing down all the things before I go. Did anything ever happen to you? And then Charlie said, oh yeah, he had several. He had 3 altogether, actually.
And Charlie was the facilities maintenance supervisor.
Yeah, supervisor. Right. And so he was up at Greystone quite a bit, especially when things were being renovated and all that stuff. He was overseeing a lot of that.
He was there a lot.
Yeah. And but this story took place back quite a few years. He's going to tell you how long ago.
Why don't we let him tell us?
Well, then let's hear Charlie.
All right. Number 1.
Yep.
Wrong one.
I give him one thing to do.
Yeah, I was checking it.
Damn.
I will delete that so they won't hear it, because that was the mystery sound at the end, so they won't hear it. Now we're back on. Here we go.
Down in that basement area, that's where a lot of the activity that I've heard about or actually seen has happened. The one time where George Chavez, he was still in building and safety. I think he was not the director, whatever it was. I guess he was the director of building and safety. And myself and Tina Houghton, who was the director of, at that time, I think it was still General Services. I was in building maintenance, and we went into the basement to look at something. And we came down. We were the only ones in the area. We came down, opened the door, unlocked the gate to get into the basement area.
Yep.
Went down the stairs. We got down to the bottom of the stairs. Tina was in front of us, and George and I were standing there. And we both heard something. And we turned around, and we looked at the top of the stairs, and a pair of jeans went by. All you could see was basically from the ankles to the waist. Jeans walked by.
Oh.
And we were like, what the hell? Who was that? We thought, oh, God, who's in the building? So we went up the stairs real quick. Nobody. No doors had opened. There was nobody. We searched that whole area up there where the old laundry room and all that stuff was.
Yeah.
There was nobody there. It's just a pair of jeans went by.
And were they solid or transparent?
A little transparent. A little, yeah. They were. That was what was kind of freaky about the whole thing. It was like, and we looked at each other. Did you just see what I saw? And it's like you couldn't see any feet, and you couldn't see above the waist, and because you know how that ceiling slopes.
Yeah.
We were kind of like at that perfect angle where the feet were cut off and the torso was cut off. It was just from the waist down. This pair of kind of semi-transparent jeans went by. It was like, interesting.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and George actually got interviewed by the Courier about that. So that's made it into the Courier. Oh, God, that's got to be 20 years ago. I had forgotten about it, really, until he mentioned, he goes, you remember when we were in the basement of Greystone? I went, he was with Tina, and I went, okay. He goes, do you remember? And I went, oh, my God. I go, I'd forgotten. That's right.
Wow.
And I said, it was a pair of jeans. He goes, exactly. He goes, so I'm not crazy. I said, no. I said, it had happened so long ago, I just kind of forgot. It was the weirdest thing.
I forgot to mention the audio quality.
Yeah.
Now, that was over the phone, right?
Yeah.
Now, why would that... It was just a bad connection?
I don't know. I mean, I probably recorded it in my bedroom by the computer. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Something was going on.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yep. But how about that? So what he's saying is, when I first heard that, I thought, there's just a pair of jeans walking. And I was going, oh, my God, that's the greatest story I've ever... But what he's saying is, when you go in and you go down the stairs, so once you go in and you're down there, now looking up, there's a ceiling there, so it's going to cut off... You have the stairs and the ceiling, so all you're seeing is this. Mm-hmm. So when they look back up after hearing a sound,
right,
they're just seeing these jeans walk. So, but if they're kind of transparent, what's to say there was a top or a bottom, like shoes? It could have just been the jeans. I don't know. But so George Chavez became city manager. And so I wanted to get the article that was in the Courier. And I wanted to talk to George. Man, this guy, he didn't want to talk to me. And he kept putting me off. And I talked to
Nice guy.
Very nice guy.
guy.
I liked him a lot, actually. Very nice guy. Talked to my secretary. I get a hold of the secretary. Well, he's busy today. Finally, what happened was, I don't even think you know this, but I ended up seeing him at Concerts on Cannon. He showed up for one of these concerts that we would do in summertime, and there he was. And I went up to him and said, "Hey, George." And he goes, "Hey." He didn't know who I was.
Right.
And I said, "My name's Clete. I've been trying to get a hold of you." "Oh, yeah, right."
Busted.
I said, "Well, how about we just talk right here?" He didn't want to talk. I said, "Can I talk to you about the story?" He goes, "No, I tell you what, I'll have her send you the article and stuff like that, and you can see it." He didn't want to go. Now, remember, he's a city manager. He's not going to say, "Hey, so I saw these jeans walk." He doesn't want to, just like
nobody
the
does.
guy in Santa Clara or whatever.
Right, the DA.
DA, assistant DA. So George wouldn't talk to me, but he did turn me on to the article. We got the article. And
He actually had a copy of it.
Yeah.
So I was able to obtain that.
Yeah. So we had that article, and then Charlie, who was very close to George, they worked together. He was the one who said, "Hey, I saw it. I don't know who Tina is, but George saw it, and so how great is that they both saw it? That's what's so cool about it.
Right.
We never had anything else like that happen again up in that area. We did.
Well, wasn't Steve and then the piping and all that?
No, the
Different
police
area.
officer.
Oh.
Downstairs though, not at the stairs, at the top of the
I
stairs,
gotcha.
right?
Okay.
And Steve, well, we'll get into that later
okay.
tonight,
Okay.
or today, whatever you're listening to. Yeah. Okay, what do we got next?
Okay.
What's going on?
This is one of the most unbelievable stories.
Really?
It's Joe Segura.
But it's not about Joe. He told me this.
Right.
Right.
It's Joe's interview about.
Right. So let me set you in this, and I set you up in this, and I won't ruin it.
Try not to.
I'll try not to. But so I was giving a tour at that time, a wedding tour, which I loved. And I'm walking these people finally around, and they're talking about, can we do this? Can we do that? We come into the inner courtyard, the main courtyard, and so I'm with this group, and
why didn't you like the wedding tour? I mean, you got to explain that.
Well,
they don't know what you're talking about.
Well, look, I've never what?
It's not your thing.
Yeah,
but
well, yeah, because I've never been married. I've never really even gotten close to that, quite frankly.
Good reason for it. But
There's
go
a
ahead.
good reason.
And there's a story in there telling us tonight why. But go ahead.
You're talk about evil.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
You'll find out how evil he is. Regardless, what I did was I walked this group in, and Dan was there. Dan Hernandez, Senior Ranger Dan. He was there. He happened to walk into the courtyard. I see Joe Segura, who was the when we did the restoration of the theater, he was overseeing that whole restoration. So he had been there for like a month or so, and things were happening. And so I made him very aware. Something happens, let me know. This was COVID was coming on, by the way. So
March, you had it down here as March 25th, 2020.
Yeah. So Joe didn't want me close to him, and you'll hear that. But the deal is that when Joe said, like, signal to me, I got a story for you. Then I said to Dan, who was my boss in essence at that time, would you come over and take over here, please? And he's like, what? I go, just be with this group.
The wedding group.
Yeah, the wedding group. I have to go. And I just ran away and went over to Joe. And then that's what you're going to hear right now. And this is beyond wild. It's very short, but think about the story, and then we'll talk. Go ahead. Okay, here you go.
Keep your distance.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. You're right. Go ahead.
The lady basically just said that.
Which lady is this?
Rosie.
Okay.
Rosie was cleaning.
Okay.
And she stared at the broom because the broom was moving back and forth.
And where was this?
At the basement.
In the basement.
Close to the electrical room.
What was she doing down there?
They were cleaning everything because we were working down there.
Oh, okay.
So that was part of the final cleaning.
Okay.
And one of her workers basically seen the broom, but she thought it was Rosie that was moving the broom. So she kept on walking through. And then she noticed that Rosie was just staring. And then she looked back and said, like, what is Rosie staring at? Rosie was staring at the broom going back and forth.
So the broom was sweeping by itself?
That's what they told me.
I don't doubt that at all. I've had other things down there that are crazy.
I just told Rosie told me, and she's all like, I don't know what happened, but this happened. I'm like, oh my God, Rosie. I'm like, don't tell me anymore.
I got to get her number. I have her number. I'll call her. I'll get a hold of her.
That's it. That's
Okay.
all as far as I went.
What was the follow-up with Rosie?
She wouldn't talk to me.
She wouldn't
talk to me.
Oh.
And here's why. She has another story in the bowling alley that you'll hear. Got her on a recording. The audio is really difficult in there too, because they're working in there. Doing all this stuff in there.
That's okay.
But remember, all these recordings were just going to be for the book, not to be published.
They were going to be
like this.
transcribed.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Not listened to.
Right. And Joe's thing is, he was such a good guy. I really liked him a lot. He had his own little place up in the boys' wing, his own little office with this other guy, Matt. And Joe wanted zero to do with paranormal. Absolutely not. And he even states, I don't even think I put him in there. Maybe I did. But his thing was, he goes, I'm Catholic. I don't want to hear about it. I know what I believe. And I said, look, I know where you're at. I know when saying you're Catholic, I get it. I'm not asking to go into a religious thing. I just want to know, just tell me what happened. And I don't think it's in here, but he told me what happened, which was corroborated probably 8 to 10 years later by Juan, which was smoke coming up from their keyboard.
What keyboard?
His computer keyboard.
Oh.
He's working up in the boys' wing, and he's going like, and this mist started to form. I don't know if it's in there or not, but Joe's a great guy. So when he found out and he talked to Rosie, she must have gone to him and said, hey, I got to tell you what happened. He tells me, I say, I'll call her. No, I'll find her. She wouldn't talk to me because in a prior interview that I did inside the bowling alley, she told me everything. And it's a wild story as well because she has the gift. Once again, the gift of hearing, feeling, sensing, smelling, all that stuff. Spirits. Boy, does she have the gift. She's really gifted. So she's at a location that's like Disneyland for spirits, right? And they're trying to, oh my God, this woman can connect. So she told me that story. And after that was over, somehow communicated to me, I can't do this anymore because my boss is going to get upset with me. Now, I thought she was the boss, so she may have said that just because she was uncomfortable, but she didn't want to talk anymore. So when I heard this story of a broom down in the basement just going, it's like, and another woman saw it, and had I known, I'd try to get the other lady and say,
yeah.
But to have that happen, and the woman sees the broom going, I'm not sure how that took place. It was down probably the hallway near the end by the electrical panel. The broom is sweeping. Another one walks by, sees the broom sweeping, and then goes around the corner, and there's Rosie just staring at it, and it's...
I would have loved to have heard the other person and Rosie.
Yeah.
Because Rosie would basically...
She would tell me what happened, but she just didn't want to do it. And then I called her, and I texted her, and she wouldn't pick up, and she wouldn't return the text.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Well, if you're out there, we appreciate it. And if you want to add to that...
Get a hold of us.
Yeah, just get a hold of us and just say, that was then. Here's what happened.
Yeah, that would.
And then we'll do a
Hopefully, she may not be listening to any of this stuff.
Probably not. But then if she does, Rosie, if you're out there and you do, I won't give your last name, but then let us know and we'll just add it into the show like an addendum. Some other show
follow up. Yeah.
Hey, by the way.
So I don't want you to stall anymore because we have a very interesting story coming up. This is a fascinating story. It involves my sister and your sister. And
well, listen,
are you sure you want to tell this story?
No, I don't. And let me say, your sister, my sister, we had a show a little while ago. I'm not sure you're my brother.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Think of the hair. All right.
Yeah.
The hell is that anyway? Okay.
Roll it along.
Okay, so I'm sorry you have to go through this, and let me just say something up front.
Go ahead.
I have to say this because I want the truth to come out, okay?
It's going to come out tonight.
I mean the real truth, okay? And that is, What you're going to hear is the conversation I had with my sister and her brother and my brother-in-law, her husband. But when I think back to the time when I went down into the basement, I was on medication. Just so you know.
What medication was that? I'm sorry, I forgot. Do you have a name for that medication?
That's between myself and my physician.
Yeah, it's called coffee. Okay.
This is not
up.
This is not my idea. I will tell you, I'll set it up, but don't believe what you hear. What did Willie Nelson say one time when he got caught in bed with a woman?
I don't know.
His wife walks in and he says, "Now you're going to believe what you see or what I tell you."
All right.
That was it for him.
Yeah.
But
that's an easy one.
Yeah. So here's what happened. Kacey and her husband live in Hawaii. They flew over.
Kacey is our sister.
My sister. They flew over to be here for a while. And then she said, wouldn't it be great to have a tour? And I said, well, okay, I'm going to be doing something. I'd love Steve Clark to give you the tour. So Senior Ranger Steve, my buddy, started giving Kacey and John a tour. And I said,
John's her husband. Did you mention that?
Yeah. I said, I'll meet you when I can on the tour after I get through with whatever I had to do that day. I finished what I had to do, and I found out they were down in the basement. And I said, oh, I'll meet them down in the basement. So I ended up going down to see Kacey in the basement. By the way, she's in the promo. What is the opening music?
Yeah.
She's the woman that says she had a hard time.
I was so terrified.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bad day for Kacey too, and I mean myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what took place, and then I'll tell you what medications I was on. Go ahead.
When I showed up, you guys were standing with Steve, and I joined you, and he started talking about the boiler. When I was standing there and he was talking about the boiler, suddenly behind me on the wall were 3 loud knocks.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Ring a bell?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Yes.
What
and
happened?
We grabbed each other.
As much as it's painful for me to say, I ran and hid behind Kacey.
Oh my God! And you ran? Yes, you did. Because I caught.
What? Wait a minute. What?
I hid behind Kacey.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I was going, and he did. He hid behind. He grabbed me and hid behind me, and it was like, holy shit, what the heck? I just got so scared that I wanted out. My brother was hiding behind me. Yes, that's exactly correct.
So when those knocks came behind me,
right,
I looked at Steve and Kacey and you, John, and then I just remember going, holy shit. And I just ran to Kacey and grabbed her, and I held her out as bait. Because I was so terrified. So I was really confused as to how it could be that loud and behind me is like cement stuff.
Yeah,
so
I remember that.
It scared me. And so the next thing I know, I'm grabbing Kacey and hold her out as a sacrifice. And I couldn't understand why it had happened around me, because it had never happened before. So it really threw me and scared me. And being the man I am, I ran behind my sister.
What were you doing, Kacey, when you heard
I was
it?
frozen. I literally was frozen. I couldn't. It was like I couldn't think. It was so loud, and I was so terrified that I just froze. And I couldn't think. I thought, oh my God, it happened. But maybe, and then when Clete said, it's Ranger Dan, or maybe, and I thought, oh, maybe it is a setup. And then when he said it wasn't, I just wanted out. I just wanted out of that place. I shouldn't have been terrified because it was just a noise. But I was. For some unknown reason, I was absolutely terrified. And I just wanted out.
Well, go ahead. Tell our audience.
Okay.
Explain that one.
I have forgotten
you
something.
actually jumped behind Kacey.
No.
And put her in front of you.
No, I remember now what happened.
I want the truth. I don't want some
BS. You're going to get. I always give you the truth.
Yeah, right.
My sister was on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I love her.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
But she wasn't thinking clearly.
Honesty now. Come on. Let's talk about it. What happened? It really did scare you that much.
Listen, I'm not one to panic unless somebody scares me.
Right.
I guess then I panic.
I guess so. It was just a reaction. Boom.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I lost it. I swear to God, and altogether there 22 years, nothing ever happened to me. I go down to see my sister and husband, and bam, 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 right behind me on a wall that's stucco, which reminds me of Mario and Felix and all that stuff that we did with the bam, bam, bam.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it went behind you really loud. And how did you do that? You jumped?
Well, Casey's like 2 feet or 3 feet away from me, and John's there, and then Steve.
Okay. Ranger Steve.
And then when that happened, it was behind me. It was almost like something was coming at me. So I ran, and I did what any male should do.
Hide behind the woman.
I tried to protect her. How I tried to protect her was grabbing her like this by the arms and spinning her so she'd be safe from me.
Spinning her toward the approaching danger.
After it was over, then I knew.
It was over. Yeah.
After it was over, then I realized, my God, what have I done?
Yeah, okay. That's enough.
It really is enough. And I after it was over, I said to Steve, was that a setup?
Oh, you did? You asked him?
No, I said, was that a setup? And he goes, I said, did you do that? Did you set that up on me? Now I'm like everybody else who's in these shows. And he looks at me and goes, no. I said, that wasn't Dan? He goes, you've always wanted something to happen. Now it happens, and you're holding your sister out as bait. He didn't say that.
No,
but I said, get Dan on the radio. So he got on his radio and said, 450-451.
And nobody else was in the mansion?
No.
Yeah.
And so he calls Dan. Dan's at Roxbury Park. He's not even at Greystone.
It's another park of Beverly Hills.
So it shook me up. It shook me up because I couldn't, I sit and talk about these shows with all these people, and like Patrick Ferris is coming up with something happened to him, and I had this long conversation, and I'm going, well, didn't you think it? When it happened to me, I lost. It's happened twice in my life where I was robbed one time, and I handled it better than this.
I know.
Good Lord.
He was robbed at gunpoint.
Jesus.
And he was literally more calm than this time.
Than this time, I held Kacey and said, you're okay. Take her.
All right, settle down.
Okay.
Settle down.
I panicked.
We're going off topic.
I panicked.
Off
I
topic.
I felt horrible about it afterwards. But probably a month or two ago from right now, I called Steve and I said, I have to know. This is years later now.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have somebody at that park doing that? Because we do that once in a while when kids. We did like the Catskills camp stuff. We'd have somebody behind go, ooh,
yeah,
and little kids get scared. Did you have somebody? He goes, no, I don't recall having anybody in that house at that time. That was a real deal. And I went, oh my God. Okay, so it was a real deal.
That's crazy.
It did frighten me. I think Kacey made more of it than what it was.
I don't think so.
I mean, you don't think so?
No. Her own brother grabbing her. Okay, let's move it along.
Put the comments below on my side.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have played this.
I know.
asked you not to.
That's why I love this. This part 3 is fantastic.
I hate you.
Let's start with the next segment. It's Steve. Just one of my favorite stories. They're all favorites, but I've always felt bad for Ranger Steve.
This is one of the top 5 stories, probably in the book, by the way, which has
237 stories.
There you go. This one, and I happened to he called me this night. You'll hear about this, and he was so frightened.
So frightened. Just to play it. It doesn't need to set up.
Yeah, let's just go. This is let me just say it's a night where, because I don't think he sets it up.
Mm-hmm.
This is a night where it's during a design show.
2007.
Okay, and there's nobody in the house except for Mary Nichols, a great photographer. Architectural Digest does all these great things. We would hire her, the city would hire her, every show we did, which was like 10 shows. And she would come, and by the way, she said after a while she didn't want to do it. It would take her a long time to get over what she went through in the mansion. And then we'd call her again, so we got another one. She's like, oh, dear God.
It's hard for her.
And she would go and do it and shoot the rooms. But wait.
Oh.
So they're shooting, Mary and her lighting guy are in the mansion. And Steve has to go down to the basement by himself and shut off the electrical because it's right around 9:30. That's it. That's the setup.
Okay. Very good.
Yep.
But
Was
the gate
the-
electrical upgraded by then? Do you remember?
Absolutely, it was not, and that's the reason I went. I had to go to the basement.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
and was that light in the stairwell that lights up by the gate, was that working or not working at that time?
that I would say no, because we had to have our flashlight there to open the gate. It was
that's what I thought, because it made no sense to me that you would be down there. You got a little flashlight, and not the light that's in there that would have brightened up that whole area.
Yeah. So and this is, I'm rereading the chapter in the book. It seemed like I went down after kind of when she finished her photo shoot early because her batteries were all dead.
Right.
And that's one thing I did forget until I reread, the chapter in your book. So, she comes in about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, just when the park is closing, because we don't want people, walking around the windows of the mansion while she's trying to photograph. Mm-hmm. And for the listeners, there was a design show. We had it most every year for almost 10 years. And decorators would come in from all over the country and all over the world. Very famous decorators. They would pick a room in the mansion and decorate it. I mean, go all out on it. Furniture, wallpaper, beautiful rugs. And then obviously this was a fundraiser. So then people would come in. We would close the mansion for 3 months, and people would come in and pay to see this normally empty mansion completely decorated. So she was hired to take photos of the rooms. She's a very famous photographer, and she would come in she liked to photograph in the evening. She liked to do it when there was no sun coming through the windows. So she'd come in about 5 o'clock. The park would close at 5. It was still light out a little bit. And, before she came in, I would go down into the basement. The mansion's power was very minimal. There was a few little bit of some emergency lighting in the main halls, but that was it. But to turn on all the lighting in the rooms, we had to go down to the basement, all the way to the end of the basement to a big electrical room. And the equipment was from the 1920s. It was a big iron panel with big iron handles you'd have to switch up or down to turn the electrical on. So that night, after rereading this, she was running, every battery she'd put in would hardly last at all. And she had charged all her before she got there, all of her equipment. And so she did. She was packing up because she's like, all my batteries are dead. They're just not working. So while they were starting to pack up, I went down to turn off all the lights in the house, except, she had enough lights, the emergency line to get out. So, and that's when it happened. I went down, opened the wood door, big metal gate there with a big chain and lock. And, as I was reaching for my keys, something growled at me coming out of the basement. And the basement was pitch dark. You couldn't see anything down there. It was just this big, long hallway, staircase, then a big, long hallway. So I obviously I was just stunned and scared witless, but it was dark and I just had my little flashlight with me. And all I could think of is that something might grab me through the gate, because I was standing right up next to the gate, by the padlock, trying to get it open. And I don't know, I could barely move, but I just started backing away from the gate where I felt safe, probably about 5 or 6 feet away from the gate. And I was standing there trying to catch my breath. And I just remembered what this psychic who we had at the mansion a couple of times, Rob Ladarski, he always told us, he said, if anything happens to you, verify it, ask for it to happen again. If you hear a knock, ask for the knock to happen again. If you hear a voice, ask the voice to speak again. And that way, if it does, you've kind of verified it's not just a random sound. And even though I knew this was not a random sound because it was loud, it was painful sounding, and it didn't sound human and it didn't sound like an animal. It was something in between, as far as I could tell. It was a sound like a growl that I've never heard before. So I backed away and I'm getting my wits and I'm thinking, okay, something's going on here. And I just stood there in the dark and I said, if there's something here with me tonight, can you please make that sound again? And no, I just barely got that out of my mouth. And this growl, scream thing came back out of the basement, louder, stronger than the first time. So I just literally panicked and ran, and why I didn't wet my pants, I don't know. But I just ran like a little girl and probably screaming and yelling and I ran down and Mary was just getting her packed up in the main foyer there, the card room area. And I don't remember even talking to him. I just remember telling him, get out of the house, get out of the house. And then I think once we were out of the house, I asked him, I said, were you guys, because she had one assistant. I said, were you anywhere in the house? And they're like, no. And, Mary's like, he was with me. Mm-hmm. And I was a mess. I was a mess. And I told him what happened to me. And I think she sort of believed me and sort of didn't, but I think just my physical reaction, I was shaking. I was probably on the verge of tears, and I was just a mess. That's all I can say. So she's like, okay, we're done. We're packed up. She's like, we're leaving. She goes, none of my batteries work tonight. All my batteries are gone. Which then later I thought, well, that was weird, that her energy, all her batteries were drained, or, and that night I called you because I was afraid to go back in the house, and you came to Greystone because I had to go back in, lock up. I still had to go down in the basement and turn all the lights off, the electrical, because it was not safe leaving all that stuff on unattended, like overnight. So you came up, you were living there off Sunset, and I remember you came up and, I told you what happened, and you and I went down into them by ourselves and went down and turned everything off, and, nothing happened. It was just calm.
So I have some questions for you, man. When you were in essence like paralyzed in fear, I think is what you said at one point. How close was that that growl scream? What do you think from you? What did it sound like?
It sounded like it was maybe 20 feet, maybe just down the staircase of the basement on the other side of the gate. It sounded fairly close, mm-hmm. But it wasn't right like there where I could feel the air and the breath, mm-hmm. of whatever it was. It was fairly close. I would say 20, 30 feet, maybe down the hallway is what it sounded like. But the second time it sounded much closer. It sounded like literally, I don't know why I didn't see it in the gate, in the blackness mm-hmm. behind the gate, because it was that loud.
Okay, so, that was my question. I want to see if it graduated toward the gate on the second.
Yeah. It was much louder and stronger the second time. when I asked for it to make that sound again, because I couldn't believe that I actually heard what I heard.
I'm going to ask you a strange question, but how did you ask that question that second time? How did you ask it? Was it like a yell, or did you state it quietly, or were you shaky, or how did you?
Oh, I was shaky, yeah, but I was just like, it was probably in a normal tone of voice, like I'm talking to you. I might have been maybe raised my voice a little, so if it was something down the basement, it could hear me. But I just said, if there's something here with me tonight, can you make that sound again? And it did, and I ran like a little girl. I just ran.
Well, I mean, and I've said this before, and when I would do my tours, which I have done obviously a lot, I would tell people, and it's always during the day. Mm-hmm. And I said, you have no clue what he went through unless this is completely dark here and you have a little flashlight. And those flashlights weren't that great back then either. They weren't
no,
like
in 2007,
huge.
I probably still had my mag light, that big
mm-hmm.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
not what I have, what I graduated to later when I worked there, one of the big, super strong LED police lights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard anything in life that would be compared to that sound?
Yeah, when you did, you used to leave recorders in the mansion, and one night you picked up this howling sound. It was just this weird howling, almost like someone was being tortured. Because again, it sounded kind of animalistic, and it wasn't like coyotes, because they're more high pitched yippy. This was a groany howl. And you made a recording one night, and I used to play that for people on our tours. You scared me and them, when I play this recording on our tours of this tormented yell, Yeah. And that's that. And when I heard that, I said, that is very similar to what I heard. That was the closest thing that I could tell you that it came to.
Okay, and we call that the screams and wails, that tape. And
okay.
Yeah, it's called the screams and wails, and it's like 8 minutes, and you hear a lot of things, but you hear a little girl at the beginning, and then you hear what Steve's talking about, which is this. It's almost unworldly.
It really is, but it's like torturous sounding, Mm-hmm. It almost sounds like someone's being tortured somewhere in the man. That's the kind of groaning, yelling that you'd expect a tortured man to, expel out of his body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also, having listened to it so many times, it also sounds like it could be torturing this little girl, because you could hear her voice, her voice at the beginning, and then this thing starts coming on. It's so hard to really to duplicate, because it's so deep in its growl, but it's also has like a little higher pitch at some point. It's just it's so horrible. And for you to hear that in that stairwell, so you ran out to Mary. Mary's had a horrible night, like you said. Everything wasn't working.
Right. So her equipment wasn't working. Her batteries were dead. She was very frustrated. And then I come running out like a idiot down the hall yelling, get out of I just remember saying, get out of the house, get out of the house. And I don't even think I stopped. I just ran up the stairs and out to the portal.
With them still in the house?
Yeah, and they came out, obviously, after me. I just said, get out of the house. There's something in the basement.
God, that must have been so frightening for them. Do you think?
I would imagine. I think they were confused, at first, because they're like, what the hell? But Mary knows me. She's worked at that several years prior with me, being the ranger who sits in the house all night and, watches her work.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually, at that point, we were friends, and
And you were the senior ranger too, which
I
which
was
is
a senior supervisor
you were
ranger.
yeah
I was
you
the
and
head
Dan
guy. Yeah.
and I think in my conversation with her, she said that it was very disturbing to see you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think once they knew and when I told them what I heard, I think their confusion even got more, and then they started getting frightened.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah. That was one of the longer ones. But this is a guy, I wrote down a note, verge of tears. He's strong, confident, great shape, just the epitome of,
your senior
strength.
ranger.
Yeah.
And
this guy's running out, as he says, screaming like a little girl.
Yeah. And by the way, let's not miss the point that he ran out before the people he's supposed to protect.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I'm sorry, Stephen.
Yeah.
But
you guys have something in common.
I didn't need to hear that.
But we'll talk a little bit more about the screams and wails.
Yeah, the screams and wails, which we discussed. But God, I can't express to you what it's like at night down there by yourself.
You did a pretty good job explaining what it was like.
Yeah.
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it's really creepy. And for him to have the guts to stay down there and verify if there's someone down here. And by the way, when he went up to Mary and they were outside, she said that she was so disturbed by seeing Stephen because he was vibrating.
Hang on a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've got, you're tipping it again.
Well, I didn't know you. I thought we were done.
No. We've got Mary Nichols.
Oh, Mary comes on.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's hear it.
Let's listen to
Maybe
Mary.
she didn't say that.
Maybe she didn't. We'll find out.
We're shooting. Everything's going fine, down that hallway. And all of a sudden, here comes Steve from the other end. And he goes, you know how he gets. And he said, were either one of you just down there at that? And we said, we're kind of looking at him like, okay. We said, no, we've been right here doing exposures. And he said, so neither one of you were down there for anything, to adjust a light or do anything. And we just said, no. And he goes, something's there. And he goes, I hope it's a ghost rather than a real person. And he said he had heard almost something had touched his shoulder or something and made like a sound, like right next to him. And it really scared him.
Yeah.
And that's when he came up the stairs. He said it didn't sound like a good human sound. It was almost animalistic kind of a sound.
He said a growl.
Yeah, a growl. Yeah, he did panic.
Yeah.
It's very seldom that I see him panicked.
Yeah.
And he definitely was. And so, of course, we were just like kind of frozen in place. We didn't know what to do. And he goes, I'm going to call, the other rangers and this. And we said, okay. He was vibrating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How you are when you're really afraid.
Yeah, that verifies that.
Right.
But what also was said was that when his quote from what I remember talking to Steve was that I hope whatever is down there is human. And I asked him I made a phone call for this show to Steve and to go over that again because the original interview we had, we did it in the stairwell, and it was so echoey that it was hard to listen to. So I called Steve up, like a month and a half ago, and said, let's go over this again because we're going to do a podcast, and I really would like to talk to you. And we did that, and he said to Mary, I hope whatever is down there is human. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, because first of all, you're trying to justify. That's why he came up to Mary and said, were you downstairs? Now, there would be no reason for them. Remember, the gate was locked, so they couldn't have gotten downstairs, but he's so freaked out. Were you down there? Were you adjusting lights? And they're like, no. I mean,
because he heard it behind locked gates.
Right.
So why would they be in there and the gates locked?
That's how freaked out he was.
Right.
And so in his statement, I hope whatever is down there is human. I said, what did you mean by that? And he said, because if it wasn't human, then it was probably a demon. And, you know, we also have another story. I don't even know if we're doing it, though, in the attic where there is something demonic within the home. Right. And so that's always been a possibility within that home. Yeah. Especially with a portal. Yeah. Anything can come and go.
Right.
And are we done with it?
No, we're going to do a follow-up, Steve's follow-up.
Okay, good. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But the gate.
Yeah, I mean, I had the, it was still locked. I had pulled the keys off my key ring, you know, and I probably had the lock in my hand, and that's when I heard it, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know, and I was just stunned. I just couldn't believe what I had just heard. But my inner brain's going, my survival instinct's like, you got to get away from this gate, dude. You got to back off a couple steps, because I was like literally right up on the gate. Mm-hmm. So I dropped the chain and lock, which was still locked, and I backed off, you know, like I said, probably 6 feet where I felt a little safer. And then I probably just took a couple breaths, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm thinking, did this just happen? You know, and I couldn't believe it just happened. And I said, okay, if it happened, I'm going to, you know, thinking about Rob, what he always told us, ask for it to happen again, which was stupid, but I did, because I couldn't believe it the first time.
Yeah.
I believed it the second time.
That was enough.
That was enough.
And what's interesting is also, in reading back this again, like for both of us, it was, you know, 16 years ago, whatever it was, that you experienced it and I experienced it with you, not the scream, but
yeah, you came later.
Yeah. But when you went to Mary, like you said earlier, you had said to Mary and her assistant, were you downstairs? And it like maybe it was them, possibly, because your brain is so
I was searching for something, and I'm thinking it couldn't have been them because it came out of the basement, but I just wanted to know where they were. You know, I'm like, it wasn't you, right? You know, you're just looking for an answer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I totally get that.
Logical, and see, even just thinking back on it, I'm getting all shaky just thinking about it. Even now, you're going to give me nightmares tonight.
Well, I'm sorry if that happens. Do you by chance, Steve, remember how long it took you to go back down to the basement again?
Oh, I wouldn't go down to the basement by myself at all. By myself for at least a year. Wow. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it.
Did you ever go down into the basement again after that in the dark by yourself?
Nope. Oh, no. Eventually, yes. Eventually I did. But sadly, you know, I had a dog, a Jack Russell Terrier, and like during filming or something, or weddings, you know, where we had to have a light on somewhere, you know, before they would pack up and leave, I live very close to the property. I would go pick up my dog, mainly because he's been sitting in my apartment most of the day, and bring him back. And I used to, he was a very brave little dog, but I used to send him down first.
You are a horrible human being.
I am, you know, and he was, he'd like to jump and run ahead of me. And, you know, he would scurry down the basement stairs. I'm like, okay, he's okay. I'm going to go down. But that's what I used to do.
So he was your canary in the coal
mine. He was
mine.
my canary. Absolutely.
Okay. And I do remember, and this is off topic a little bit, I do remember another story where he would not cross a threshold upstairs.
That's right. And that's the only time, because he was fearless. He was a Jack Russell. He was absolutely fearless. And one time we were upstairs going into Mrs. Doheny bedroom, and he just literally put his paws out and came to a screeching halt, and he would not cross the threshold to go into the master suite. And even after I went in and called him to come in, he would not go in.
Yeah, because that was my question.
That is completely unheard of for him. Unheard of. And then I'm like, okay, I need to get out of here. He's not coming in.
Isn't that amazing? Now, did you, it's a long time ago, but did you feel anything inside that room? Because you have a gift. Did you feel anything when you were in there and when Cooper would not come in?
I didn't. But it made me worried. So, because of that, because of his reaction, it made me more like tense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like I felt like my hair coming up on my neck or anything like that.
Right.
But it was just the only time he's ever done it. And, and he was good company, and then once we closed the house up, he would run around the park. I'd stay like 40 minutes just so he could get some exercise, and run around the park free, and then we'd both go home together.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to take him down into the basement with me. It just made me feel safer.
Jesus, I think after having that happen, I think it would have got like a Rottweiler or something, Boy, oh boy, that's horrifying.
You met my dog. He was pretty fierce.
He was kind of a Jack Russell Rottweiler.
Yeah,
that
he
dog.
definitely had a Rottweiler temperament for a small
There
body.
was a little bit of demonic part to that dog. When you go up to, hi, Cooper, those teeth would come out and he'd growl at you like you've done something wrong. It was kind of wild.
Yeah.
So listen, my last question to you, what's your opinion on what that was?
Well, it wasn't a human. It most likely wasn't an animal because, there's no animals down there besides rats and mice. So, the only thing, and I hate saying it because I'm not, kind of a religious of a person, but it sounded demonic to me.
Okay. Yeah.
And, and I don't know where to put that. Because if it wasn't a person, if it wasn't a live being, you kind of have to go somewhere else, and I mean, it could have been a ghost, maybe howling, but it was I just can't even put and if you played that, if it's the same recording I'm thinking of and you play it, I think any listener would say, wow, that's kind of weird. I don't know what box to put that in. And to be honest with you, I think after that happened, I mean, being raised Catholic, I have like 3 or 4 rosaries in a drawer somewhere. And I think I would not go down there. If I knew I was going to work, I would have something in my pocket or I'd put it around my neck, under my uniform, just to make me feel better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so... But never again did I have a problem in the basement. I never, I mean, we had incidents go on in the basement, but nothing like that. That was the only incident I had and I had some frightening incidents, and frightening and surprising things that have happened to me in the house. But that nothing compares to that.
Wow. That's pretty heavy.
It's pretty
his
wild,
experience.
I just, like I say, if the majority of people maybe listening haven't been to Greystone possibly, or have been, I don't know, but if have not probably been down there at night by yourself.
Nobody has. I mean, think about it, except for the people that have been on the tour or you.
Yeah, but there's like Brooke or some people that may have worked there, but usually you're with someone else. If you're going down there by yourself, and I've done it, it's because you know all the stories, and I know Steve's story,
right?
And I know it's like, man, if that thing's in there, I'm amazed that he had the nerve ever to go back down there again, even if you're with the dog or something like that.
Yeah, I have been in there when it's dark and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But that's my own head thinking, this is creepy and it's scary. I know some of the stories and stuff like that. But it still rattles you a little bit.
It does.
You just want to get out of there.
Yeah, and even with Brigitte, her going down there, she had that same kind of odd, creepy feeling, and then she got touched. She did get touched and grabbed. Was that the same thing that yelled at Steve? And Steve mentioned that I did a recording. Can we get into that or not? The screams and was that another show or something?
No, we need to do our sound of the week.
Oh, okay. Why am I doing this show? I don't know.
That's okay. Let's lighten it up a little bit. And we'll go with the sound of the week.
Oh, this will be fun.
Yeah. Get out of this frightening, scary crap.
Yeah, wow.
All right, let me check this out here. Okay, so let's do the sound.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Is that an odd? I don't even understand that one.
I don't know if I could do that with my hands that fast. Yeah.
What do you think? Do you have any idea what that is?
I know. I have no clue. That's a triple. Bum, bum, bum.
And that was just nothing. Then you hear that on the recording.
Did I mark where I heard that?
You did not.
Okay. It was probably second floor landing. But it sounds like it's on metal. On wood.
Yeah, definitely.
But what is hitting the wood?
Yeah. I don't
Can
know.
you do it one more time? Because it almost sounds like a knuckle. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's not a knuckle.
I don't know. I don't know. But it's bizarre stuff like that.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I have a little surprise for you.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Has nothing to do with Kacey, our sister. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I'm better.
I did dig in and do the screams and wails.
Oh,
and I have those on here. Oh, yeah. Big surprise. I wanted to surprise you.
Wow. So what do you mean you have them on there? Just a little snip of it?
I have a little snip of it.
Oh.
The original. And then I have one treated as best I could to get out the noise floor.
Okay, can I set it up?
Sure.
Okay, wow, this is a surprise to me. Thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Here's the deal. I put my recorder in one night, just left it in.
Where was it?
Second floor landing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just left it in and walked away, alarm, go home. Next day came, picked it up. I don't know how long it was before I listened to it, but when I sat there and put it, I remember it was in the bedroom. At my house. We're in a studio.
Right. Yeah, right.
In my bedroom.
Oh, okay.
House. And when I was just like sitting there reading or whatever, and what you'll hear, I'm not going to give it away, but what you'll hear is the alarm was broken at that time. So it'll go, be-doo, be-doo, be-doo.
They'll hear it.
Be-doo, be-doo. And it was like, we eventually got rid of that alarm.
Yeah, I can see why.
So I can get better recording.
But, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's the alarm. There's an owl throughout the night that comes through. There's a helicopter that comes over.
Okay, they're not going to hear any of that?
Okay.
I got near the end.
Okay,
The good part.
So you'll hear voices. And
let them hear it.
We're going to play
Let them hear it.
And then we'll chat about it. But it was something that I just remember shutting the computer off and staring at it like,
what is that?
What am I hearing?
Yeah.
I know nobody's in the mansion.
Let them hear it.
Okay.
Before you tell everything about it. Which is normal for you.
Yes.
Okay, Screams and Wail original. Number 8. Here we go.
Boy, you fixed that beautifully.
I have one that's treated.
Even better than that?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard it like that.
No, you haven't. You haven't. So let's play the other one, and then we can talk about it.
I hope you hear that like we hear it, because that is the scream that Steve Clark heard. And when I played that for him, he said, "Shut it off, shut it off." I said, okay, what's wrong? What's wrong? He goes, it freaked him out.
Yeah.
He goes, that's what I heard in the basement. And he didn't want to hear it again.
Listen to this. See if you like this better.
Mm-hmm.
Is that frightening?
That's incredible. That is...
It's chilling.
So horrifying.
It gives me the creeps.
Yeah.
Got goosebumps right now.
And at the beginning of this, when it first started, this goes for about 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of it, you can hear a little girl. And that freaked me out so much. This little girl. And then it starts in. And by the way, if you were to listen to this, there's what sounds like a gunshot at the beginning of it. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
There's a gunshot.
There's all kinds of.
I mean, it's nuts. And even in that little snip,
you
there's
heard
a boom.
Right.
Well, the place was out of control. And I don't know if that was because the demon was in there. And that's what Chris Fleming.
You played that for.
I played that for Chris Fleming, who's a psychic medium who was off the charts great, good friend of mine. It's not like we have coffee together. He lives in Chicago, but we talk every once in a while. He's really good at what he does. And when he heard that, he just stared at it, listened, and said, I'm amazed you got that recording. And I said, it was just luck of the draw. I just sat out there one night. But he said, that's the demon that goes, and this is what he said. That's the demon that goes between the attic and the basement. He's a psychic medium. And I went, boy, that's bang on, man.
It's pretty creepy.
Is that amazing? Thanks for doing that.
You're very welcome.
God, that's fantastic.
I know. I did that actually. Yeah, I worked on that today, and it was like,
God, that's so
let's get
awesome.
this thing
now,
going.
Because I tell people about the screams and wails and everything, but I've never been able to hear it like that. And for you now to be able to hear it like that.
You're the first.
Yeah, that is so cool, man.
All right. So if you
thank
you for watching the show and listening to the show, however you're looking at it. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell. It helps us. And leave a review if you're on Spotify. Or you can't leave a review, but you can, give a review like a check mark, a star, or whatever it is.
Good. Give us a good run at this one.
Yeah. And if you have any comments, feel free to leave them on the YouTube comment section area there.
Yeah.
If you have anything about Greystone, if you had an experience at Greystone, we would love to hear that.
Yeah.
And if you don't want anybody to hear it or you're shy about that, then just go on to our website, ghostsofgreystone.com, and leave it there because we respond to everything. We respond to the ones on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And again, that's ghostsofgreystone.com, and you can get all the podcast information there as well as purchase the book if you like.
Yeah, if you love this stuff, this is what the book is about.
Yeah.
And you can visualize it. And also another cool thing that if you were to get the book was that when you read, and I had somebody say this to me, when you read the stories, then you go up to Greystone.
Yeah.
Now you're going like, so that's the murder room. You can look from the outside.
Right. They could get that whole different aspect when they're looking at
vibe. The grand entry. And if they have the tours, which they do January through April, I got to find out if they're still doing those.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say that.
They may not be.
Or if they have an event and like a wedding.
Oh.
So you can go up there and say, that's where that man was murdered.
Yeah. All right. Well,
okay.
Coming up next,
the
new kitchen, servant's wing, staircase, break room in the servant's wing.
That's all good stuff. We got some
lot
really,
of stuff going on.
really
What's
cool
all this about?
Well, we got a bunch of great stories there,
Okay.
and I don't want to get into it because there's so many. But it's. I will say this.
Yes.
Like with the new kitchen, I'm going to call that the spooky.
Oh.
And you'll see why.
Okay.
Because that's what somebody said.
The spooky.
Yeah.
Oh.
The spooky apparitions and they're also poltergeists.
Okay.
So it's really going to be fantastic.
All those in the next one.
All those in the next one. So
Okay.
don't miss the next one.
All right.
And remember, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. We love you. Thank you for being here. Thanks so much.
100 horses in 5 freight trains couldn't drag me into that early grave. I've cashed in the mistakes I've made while God rode shotgun from 1,000,000 miles away. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time, and this ain't that day. I'll keep riding till the trail grows cold, where the hillsides burn, amber and smoke. The sheep and the shepherd are lost on different roads, blinded by hate, blinded by hope. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time. I don't wake in sorrow, I don't walk in shame, I don't deal in hearsay, I don't dwell in blame. Sometimes it's best to forget what I know and what they say, but this ain't that time. No, this ain't that time. And this ain't